Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at Life and In Between podcast. I am so excited because I have two extraordinary women that have joined me today. For those that are looking at the screen and are about to hear the voice coming on, but her voice isn't there yet, it's not Patrick today. We do not have Patrick today. But however, I have someone incredible, Nikki Allen. For those that have been following us, you're fully aware that Nikki Allen has been a former guest with us, and she's appeared and she had an incredible story that she shared with us. But today she's going to be sharing the co-host seat with us because I'm going to allow Nikki to just say a quick word, and then we're going to go talk to our amazing guest that's joining us today.
My quick word. Hey, thank, thank you for thinking of me. This is an honor, actually. I'm looking forward to this and our wonderful discussion with Mia, because I know this is probably going to get kind of juicy. I don't know why, I just feel that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nikki. And I do want to go ahead and for those that today's discussion, we are going to be having a very heavy discussion. We're going to be talking about narcissistic relationships, abuse, and all that. So if this is your trigger warning, I would like to advise everyone this is currently your trigger warning. So if you're not ready to hear that, please close the mic and don't listen to this podcast. Although I want you to listen, but it can be a healthy thing as well. Now, without further ado, I just want to mention about Mia Hank. This is such a brave and incredible woman that has decided to come on today and share her journey, her story. She's a survivor of a narcissistic abusive relationship, and she has written a book. It's an award-winning book called Bridemaid. It's a memoir, and I just want to say that today she's here to share her incredible journey, and I give her the platform. Mia, can you share a little bit more about you and about this wonderful book that you have written?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. So my name is Mia Hanks, and yeah, I'm the author of Bridemaid. I was in a marriage to a narcissist, a covert narcissist to be exact, for 29 years, and got married very young. And like I say, stayed in that marriage for nearly 3 decades and finally found my way out when I learned about narcissism and what was going on and learned that there was a name for what I had experienced. I was fortunately, I consider myself very lucky to be someone that was able to untangle from this relationship and find freedom and find a new life.
Thank you for sharing that.
Question. I have a question for you. Can you
Yeah.
explain what a covert narcissist is? We all know narcissism and narcissists, but you put that in there, and I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah,
What?
so covert, I think there are 4 or 5 different types of narcissism, covert being one of those. And it is actually considered one of the more dangerous types. These people, to the outside world, they appear anything but a narcissist.
Mm,
They are kind, they're humble, they're empathetic, they're generous, they're just all around good people until they get behind closed doors. Basically, it is covert. They are effectively wearing a mask in public. They fool everybody, and it really makes it dangerous for the victim because, like myself, it's very hard to get people to believe you when all they see is this great guy. Nobody really believes what he's really like.
mm. And so, sorry, Diana, this is your
No,
show.
go ahead. Go ahead. No, go, Nikki, please.
No, because I'm just so curious because I was married to a narcissist. My father was definitely a narcissist, and you explaining that my dad was definitely a covert narcissist, just because of that little piece you put in there that my ex-husband didn't have, and that was empathy. He
Yes.
didn't have that. My dad had that. So people, even to this day, think I'm the bad kid because nobody believed me. But that empathy part is the scary part because at least with my ex-husband, we saw that missing puzzle piece, right? Like, oh, he couldn't connect like that. But the empathy, wow, I'm definitely ready to hear this journey.
Well, that's interesting. So my ex-husband, being a covert narcissist, he and like other coverts, they can fake empathy. They can fake empathy when it serves them. But as far as actually being empathetic or feeling
Right.
empathy, they cannot. It's like there's a void.
Mm,
There's just something missing. But certainly he can go out in public and appear to be the most empathetic person on the planet. So that really is where it gets really confusing for the victim.
yeah.
Because I knew this is all it's just a show. And I knew that he did not possess empathy.
Mm,
And you mentioned that this makes it so hard for people to believe in your journey, because you said you were with him for closely about 30 years.
Yes, yes.
Um, if you don't mind me sharing, when was it the moment? When did it happen for you that it said that something triggered inside that said, I need to get out? I mean, you were with him for 30 years, but what was that moment that made you say, this is it, it's over, I need to get out?
Well, I saw red flags right from the beginning, but I didn't recognize them as red flags. I wanted to call them personality quirks. And really, it does go back to that empathy part. I can remember early in my marriage being sick with the flu or some sort of virus. And I remember that he was not sympathetic. Instead, he was actually angry at me. And I noticed that throughout my marriage, if I was sick or anything like that, he would be angry because it was a disruption to him. It was inconvenient to him. How dare I inconvenience him by getting sick? And so I definitely saw that early on, but I just said, well, he's, it's a personality quirk. And I just tried to ignore these flags because, I wanted the marriage to work. And then once I had kids, the idea of leaving, even though many times I wanted to walk out, I didn't want to, I didn't want to break up my family, right? I didn't want to share custody of my kids. So one thing led to another. And at a certain point, you feel like I'm too invested, I'm too trapped, I'm too wound up in this. I can never untangle. Um, Really, it was the last year of my marriage. Things really escalated. I think narcissism gets worse with age, it does not get better. And his level of control just tightened to a point where I felt like I was suffocating. My physical health was suffering under the weight of the stress. And I really started doing a deep dive into what is going on here. And it wasn't until I discovered narcissism and every box checked, and suddenly there was a name for this. And so, yeah, finally, I just had to get out. It just escalated to a point that I didn't think it was sustainable anymore.
yeah, I'm so glad you got out of that. Can I ask how young were you when you first got in this relationship?
So I was 19 when I met him. We were in college together, and I was 21 when I got married.
Yeah,
So
see, we
I
think
was
we know
young.
everything then.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, we think we know everything and we're gonna it's okay. We're gonna fix them. That's the guy that I have a book out about, mine is fiction though, but it's loosely based on a relationship similar to that. And I was 21 when I met this guy and I thought he was my world. And
Yeah.
you know, we're just at that age, you're so young and impressionable, and especially not knowing. This is up to you to talk about. But for me, I when I started to do the deep dive, I knew I found myself in this relationship due to daddy issues. So it stemmed from something earlier that made me
Yeah.
latch onto this and stay way longer than I did. And kudos to you. And I mean this sincerely, that you got out, because my mom was married to my dad for 29, 30 years, and she didn't get out alive. Um,
Wow.
he didn't kill her necessarily, but like you said, it started um, messing with her health. And so
Yes.
my mom got cancer, and she kept saying, "You're making me sick. This stress is going to kill me. This stress is going to kill me." And I am an avid believer that that is why my mom is not here, because every disease is a dis-ease, right? Something
Right.
causes that. And she had breast cancer, which is our heart area, and you can't convince me otherwise. My mom was 53 when she left us, and I
Wow.
know that I know that I know it was the years, the 30 years of stress that, and she would say it, you're making me sick. You're going to kill me with us too much stress. So I am so glad that you really did make that decision because we couldn't convince my mom otherwise to get out of that relationship because she said what you said. She wanted us to have that family unit. She wanted that, she didn't want us to be split apart. She didn't want to tear up the family, but it cost her. So I really, really, really sincerely mean I'm so grateful that you got out and that you're still here and able to heal yourself and be there for your kids.
Yeah, I firmly believe that as well. The level of stress that you live under, that constant fight or flight, our bodies are not meant for that. That we're not meant to sustain that level of stress 24 hours a day. And it will, I think it will break you down physically. It can cause any number of diseases. So yeah, it's tragic. And I think I think there's a whole stigma around divorce. And I can't leave, I can't break up my family, I can't do this and that. I can see on the other side of this that my family is a lot healthier now that we did break the marriage up.
Yes.
I thought I had the best of intentions. I thought I was doing the right thing for my kids. By staying, I was not. I can look back now and say that was the wrong decision. Everybody would have been so much better off had I gotten out of that marriage 20 plus years ago. So the whole issue of staying for the kids, that's not for the kids. It's not always in the best interest of the kids. And
Yes. Can we
I
co-write
had
a
to
book on
learn,
that?
yes,
Co-write a book
I
on that.
I had to learn that the hard way, but I really wish, hindsight is 2020. But no, staying for the kids, no, that was not in the best interest of my children.
Mia, and I'm happy that you're saying this. I kind of want to ask a question in regards to how did this impact your children, or was he able to, were you able to kind of cover up all this and they were not aware of it, or were they aware of what was going on?
I did my best to cover it up. I really covered it up for everybody. I tried to not let anybody know really what was going on, the dynamics. But kids are intuitive, and I know my oldest for certain knew that her dad was off, quote unquote, off, from an early age. And neither of my kids had a great relationship with him, with their father growing up. It's hard. And so he just became this figure in the house that, if you had to appease him, if you wanted to have a good day, basically, he caused a lot of stress to the kids. I don't know that they understood at the time that that's where the stress was coming from. But, today they're both grown and they fully understand narcissism. They know their father's a narcissist. They do have a relationship with him, and, a somewhat decent relationship with him. He is their father. So it's hard for me sometimes to sit and watch, but they're very aware of who he is, and there's definitely still some animosity there, and there always will be. So it's not a healthy parent-child relationship that he has with them, but nonetheless, he is their father.
I feel like you just spoke my whole life. From the childhood, like, Danny asked, like, how what do the kids know? We know, and it's so funny because I remember I heard my parents talking. They didn't know I could hear them, and my dad was like, "You're turning the kids against us," and I'm
Yes,
like to myself, "You right?" And I'm
I
to
heard it.
myself.
Yep.
Yep, I'm a kid and I'm going, no, she's not. Like, you're doing this, we can see it. But my mom's like, I'm not turning them against you, Russell. This is you doing this. And that animosity, I could not stand my father growing up. And I ended up having, and I realized looking back, this was the stress, but I started having migraines at 9 to the point where I was on medication because he just stressed me out so
Yes.
much.
Yes. It's interesting. My daughter is the same. She really could not stand him growing up.
Mhm.
But I think getting as she's older now, she understands that, this is a sickness.
Yeah,
He has a disorder. And so
yeah,
she's, I think, a little more as tolerant as she can be. I mean,
right,
realizing he has a personality disorder. But
correct.
yeah, very much a similar story for sure.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And then I ended up a few years ago. I left Chicago. That's where I'm from. That's where I was raised. And I moved to LA. And then my dad at 88, I had to go get him to live with me. And let me tell you, the behavior at 88 was the exact same. And I
Yeah.
felt like that kid all over again. But now you're in my house. The good news, before he passed, I was able to respectfully tell him everything I felt about him. So that was my release.
Wow.
But
Yes.
but I mean, and and this was the first time because they're always the victim, right? So
Always.
throughout the years when I would try to tell him, he'd start crying and everybody, I'm doing the best that I can.
Oh,
Nobody
yes. And they
right?
can fake tears. I
Oh,
mean, I'm
yeah.
talking Oscar winning,
Yes.
worthy,
Yes.
Oscar worthy performances
Yes.
of
Yes.
turning the tears on and off just on
Hmm.
demand. It's amazing.
So
And
crazy.
they can garner all kinds of sympathy. And
Yeah.
then even I would feel sorry for him and think, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't, but you just can't. It's such a, what do they call it? Cognitive dissonance. Uh,
Hmm.
it's so confusing. It really
It
is.
is.
How they can go from being this complete monster to, reduced to tears and making people feel sorry for them. It's
Yes.
it's it's a crazy life.
Yes, it is. And it was so funny because it started because even my kids, when I got them, they were like, why does he have to come here? My dad has 15 grandkids. None of them talk to him. None of his kids
Wow.
talk to him. And so I was the only one that was like, I'll deal with it. But how that conversation came up, he asked me, how come my grandson doesn't like me? Because my son would walk past him and turn his body away from him, just walking
Wow.
past.
That's
And
pretty
so
telling.
yes. And so that was like opening Pandora's box when he asked me that, because I was like, let me tell you why. Tell you why I like this. But I was able to tell it. And this time, I don't know if it was because he knew he was close to the end or what, he sat there and listened. I don't know if
Wow.
he received it all, but he didn't go into the crying theatrics that I was expecting. And
Hmm.
at the end of all of it, I saw one tear and he goes, damn, I guess I was just a bad dude. But you know what? I said what I had to say. And when he left, I was at peace,
That's good.
because I got out everything and he sat there and listened to it without the theatrics. He just sat there. So, whether he heard it or not, that wasn't for him. It was for me.
Right, right. Well, it's not probably not so much whether he heard it as whether he believed it. I
Correct.
think these narcissists really don't believe they're doing anything wrong.
They
I
don't.
mean, they really think in their twisted up mind that they are right. They are the only one who knows anything. They are the smartest person in the room. So it's just getting them to believe that they have a problem. I mean, they just won't recognize it.
Yeah.
Mia, you said, Nikki, you said something really interesting, which I want to kind of circle back to me, and then I'll answer that myself as well. You said that you were able to make that closure and have peace and all that. Mia, have you been able to do that?
I mean, as far as having that conversation with my
Yes.
ex-husband, no. I
Yeah.
mean, I never will. We don't speak. We have not spoken since the day I filed for divorce. And so, as far as peace, I will never get peace that way. But I have found peace through, telling my story, writing my book. He does not know about my book, hoping to keep it that way. But yeah, definitely I have found peace in just being able to to say this is what happened, here's my story, and now I'm hoping to raise awareness and make other people aware that this is a problem in our society. And I think that's where my peace comes from. And just knowing that I made the decision to get out, I got out. I'm happy. I'm, finding a new life. And yeah, definitely I'm finding peace. I just not through the channels of being able to sit him down and say, here's what you did. But a different kind of peace. Yes.
I see. Okay, yeah. So that is really good that you were able to find a different kind of peace. And the reason I'm asking this is because I saw how Nikki, you were just expressing how that was closure for you and all that, and being in my former ex, he passed away, and one of the things that he so desperately wanted, because he knew he was dying, was to have that conversation with me, and I did not allow him. And I closed that door. Hindsight looking back, um, and my children also. Um, uh, and but looking back on it, I wonder how that would have gone if I did have that conversation with him, you know. But I did try to find peace through other avenues, as you shared me. I did not sit down and have that conversation. So I found that very interesting, Nikki. And when you said that it was closure for you, I'm fine and trying to find closure in other areas. But
Keep in mind, this was with my dad, my
yes,
ex-husband. I did not get that, and he too passed away. And I have not, I don't believe, have completely healed because there's so much unforgiveness, and I
yeah,
have to go back to if he knew better, he'd do better. I'm like convincing myself all the reasons why I need to heal and move on because to this day, I am still suffering from his consequences. I'm suffering the consequences of his actions, I should say. So in that respect, from a marriage standpoint, I'm with you two.
okay.
It's that, but I did have that with my dad, but I did not get that with my ex-husband. And like Mia said, you can talk to them till you're blue in the face, and they'll be like, "Uh-huh, yeah, get it, sure,
Mm,
no," but they don't get it. That it's their wiring is all off, and so he had a traumatic background, so I understand why he was the way he was. And I try to live in that to get some healing and comfort. But when things happen in my life now, and I'm like, this is because of, so I'm with you guys on that one in terms of the trying to find some peace and healing in that. I really am. That one's hard because he till the day he dropped dead, he was the same and didn't change. And he would come with the, oh, I get it, I'm sorry. But the behavior never changed because he didn't.
Mia,
Yeah,
if I'm sorry, go ahead, Mia.
I was gonna say, I think they truly don't think there's anything wrong with them, and so even trying to have that conversation, it's probably not worth it, honestly. I know my ex-husband would start with, what they call circular conversation,
Mm,
and you can't get anywhere. You just can't. It's like talking to a brick wall. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's probably at the end of the day is not worth the energy that it would take to have that conversation.
That's a really great point. And yeah, and I was quite interested in when you said, Nikki, that your ex came from a traumatic a past, and so did mine. Mia, was your ex also? Did he come from? Did he have like trauma past in his?
He did. And one interesting thing I've learned about narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, the one thing that all of these people have in common tends to be some sort of neglect in their childhood.
Yeah.
So I think my ex did endure some trauma, possibly. Um, but he came from a quote unquote good family, and he really
Mm-hmm.
did.
Mm-hmm.
But there was that element of neglect,
Yeah.
and I think basically what I've read is at some point during their childhood, their emotional needs are just not met. And
Right.
even though my ex did come from a good family and a good household, his emotional needs were not met as a child. I know that. And
Mm-hmm.
there was neglect, even though from the outside things look pretty perfect. So yeah, I mean he fits that mold. And I think all of these people, that is that is what they all share. Neglect.
Yeah.
Neglect.
Yeah. That you hit that nail on the head with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, let's circle on your book. I would love to hear a little bit more about Bridemaid. Can you share um, about Bridemaid?
Yeah, so when I was going through my divorce, I was really trying to learn as much about narcissism as I could. I shortly after I pieced all of this together, I is when I left, and I was really trying to understand this whole personality disorder. I was fascinated because it just answered all my questions. And every book that I could find seemed to be written by a therapist or a psychologist. Everything seemed very academic, and I really wanted to find a firsthand account. I couldn't really find anything out there like that. And so after my divorce was final, I thought maybe I should try my hand at writing a memoir, that maybe it would be helpful to other people out there that are looking for some validation or, looking to see, oh, I guess I'm not crazy. This really is a thing. So yeah, I decided to write the book, and basically it's a chronological account of my 30-year marriage, nearly 30 years. And I just sort of take the reader through, it's a series of short stories. And I just talk about day to day life with a narcissist, all the way from the big dramatic things to just the little things every day that you don't really think much of until these things start adding up day after day, week after week, year after year. So I just try to paint a picture of what day to day life looks like when you're married to a narcissist.
And that's wonderful because I think that right now we have so many people, because I don't want to generalize, and I think it falls more women, but majority, I think we also have men that are involved in relationships where their partner is a narcissist. Um, I think reading that book is very relatable in that way that they can begin to identify the signs, because some people may not know. That they're in this kind of relationship, and they just try to dismiss it and say, oh, it's just normal. Especially
Yeah.
when you come from particular cultures that are very strict in that the male is the lead of the household, where it's a normal kind of thing, but it's not normal. It's not
It's
normal.
not. And, had I had this information early in my marriage, I would have found a way out much earlier. I just didn't have the information, and I felt like, of course, he's telling me all of our problems are my fault, and I'm
Mhm.
believing him because I don't know any better. And so, yeah, I just had I felt like I needed somebody to give me permission, to leave. I needed somebody to say, it's okay if you leave. On into my marriage, my parents really saw what was going on, and they were completely supportive of me leaving. They wanted me out. But, I just, at that point, I felt like I was too invested. And so I just continued to cover it up, cover it up. They could see through it, but nobody else could. And so, but yeah, had I understood all of this stuff earlier, I would have gotten out many, many years ago.
Yeah, can I ask, is there a significant age difference between you guys, or are you guys kind of the same age?
No, he's 2 years older than me, so not too big of an age
Yeah,
difference there.
you
And
both
really,
are young.
I think that as far as you were talking about like what drew you to your ex-husband, um, I think for me, it was I came from a very sheltered background. I never experienced any trauma. I was surrounded by good people. I lived in this fantasy world. Really, I kind of had this idyllic childhood, and I go off to college, and I just have, I have not experienced with people with personality disorders, with toxic people. This is a whole new world. Um, and my ex-husband pursued me almost to a point of stalking, really. But he was very much. I just had a huge target on my back. He could see this is somebody who's naive. I'm a
Mhm.
people pleaser. I think everybody's good, and he thought this is my target, and he pursued me, and all of his effort in trying to woo me, I took as, wow, this he really likes me. This is he's really serious, and this is so wonderful, and he's so nice, and I was easy to convince, really, and that's sort of how I fell into it. He really, the love bombing was amazing, the gifts and the attention, and you just think, wow, this is too good to be true. And that's how
To
I fell
your
into it.
fantasy.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and once I get into it, you don't, I didn't want to get into a marriage just to turn around and get divorced.
right.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the love bombing on all of that, he was really good at that. And then once I had the ring on my finger, then he pretty much knew that he had full reign to treat me however he wanted. And then, of course, you get into more deeper into things like financial abuse. And I mean, it just goes on and on. You know, people say, how can you stay for 3 decades? Well, there are a lot of reasons. There really are. It's complicated.
Yeah. I think Diana and I, in our when you interviewed me, that's one of the things we talked about. Is people always say, why did you stay? Well, how did you stay so long? And unless you go through this, you really don't know. But that is the $1 million question people do not understand, you know. And so, yeah, there's so many reasons why we stay. So many reasons why we stay.
Yeah, I think sometimes we just see it as the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
You know, how am I going to get out? I was 50 years old when I filed for divorce. And, you know, I mean, you think I'm 50, like, how do I start over at 50? It's scary. It really is scary. And I think for a lot of people, they can't see, they don't know what would come next. How do I even start to rebuild a life? And myself, like a lot of female victims, you know, I didn't work outside the home.
Mm.
And so I didn't have my own income. He was the breadwinner, you know, and he's also very, very wealthy, you know, so I had a very comfortable life. So
Love
it
it.
is kind of hard to say, like, well,
Mhm.
how do I walk away from this kind of life? And how do I start over and make it, you know, and what is this divorce going to look like? Am I even going to, you know, am I even going to get a fair settlement? I mean, there are so many unknowns. And I think a lot of women say, that's just too scary. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just going to stay.
Well, let me offer some encouragement to the women out there that are 50 and over that like, no, this is it. I found the love of my life at 50. I have an amazing partner. We've been together 7 years, so I just told you my age, uh, but I can't even believe I lucked up on this guy. I mean, so keep going, y'all. The right person is out there.
Yes,
Once you do your healing, you will
yes.
attract that right person. I'm a witness. I'm a witness.
Me too. Me
Wow.
too.
Yeah. I mean, it really is scary. And I think a lot of people, and maybe there's a lot of women out there that say, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And so because they
Yeah.
don't want to be alone, they think, well, it's just, you know, I won't find anybody at this age or whatever. I'll just stay where I am. Um, but actually, I don't know, coming out of this narcissistic abuse situation, I mean, I have really relished in being single. It
Yes.
is very exciting, you know,
Yes. Yes.
just the freedom that I have. I
Yes.
can't imagine people saying, I don't want to get out because I'm scared to be alone. It's not a bad thing, let me tell you.
No, it's not. I
Um,
stayed single for 7 years after that. So I
yeah,
get you. And I wasn't even
yeah.
looking for a relationship, which made it even better. So
Which is
yes,
even
you are
better.
right.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
But that does seem like a scary piece of it, and I can definitely attest that it's not. It's the freedom and the freedom that you have, and it's something I'll never take for granted again. You know, being able to wake up in the morning and decide how I want to spend my day, and what I want to do, and what I want to eat, and where I want to go.
Mhm.
It's all the choices are mine. How I want to spend my money. You know,
Yes.
it is it's extremely exciting. Yes.
Listeners, are you listening to this? Because I think both Nikki and Mia, you said some powerful things because a lot of times, and I also can understand where you stay in that relationship for many reasons, like the financial and aspect and all that, the fact that you're going to be alone and all that, but it is so much better. And then you are able to like heal. And when you do that self-discovery, when you enter that into that new relationship, this is my second marriage, it's so much healthier. And I'm like, what, why? And I look back and well, in my case, I was 15 when I met my husband. And he was my first love, first everything, my first experience of everything. And so and I didn't know any better. I was innocent, naive, I was gullible, everything. And then now to be my second marriage in this, and I'm looking back and I'm like, this is what healthy relationship is all about. Granted, we've had our, issues like every marriage, we have encountered issues and all that. But the difference is I'm able to sit and communicate and talk about our issues, our problems, and not feel belittled, not feel abused, or feel worthless, or feel like and feel like the worst, like the worst human being ever, because that's how my ex made me feel. um you know but Mia, one thing that I did want to go ahead and ask you, and thank you for, I mean, you ladies are so amazing. I want to ask you this. Right now, we have someone that's listening right now at this podcast. When we drop it live and they start listening to it and they find themselves in this situation, what advice would you give them?
I think my main advice would be don't wait any longer, and don't think that it's going to get better. And that, because that's what I thought. If I just hang in there a little bit longer, when we get to this next phase of life, when he retires, when the kids get older, it's going to get better. It does not. It does not. And I think my advice would be start making a plan to get out, to free yourself. There are a lot of steps you need to take. Divorcing a narcissist is not like divorcing a neurotypical person. And so there's definitely, there's some steps you need to take to do it. But my overall advice would be make plans to leave and to find a new life, because you just do not need to stay in that type of relationship any longer.
Great advice. I think that's wonderful. And I did want to go ahead and ask you, in regards to your children. I know that I want to kind of circle back, because this is something that's my boys are dealing with a lot. And I know you said that your children have that relationship because with their father. And Nikki shared that she had that tough talk. Have your children had that tough talk with their dad, or?
They have not. I think they know that they wouldn't get anywhere.
Okay.
At this point in his life, at least, I mean, maybe as he gets older, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe one day that talk would come. I think my oldest would like to have that talk with him one day, but I don't think either one of them feel like now is the right time. It wouldn't end well. He would not be receptive. They know him well enough to know that they would be wasting their breath, really.
Okay. I want to also ask another question. This is from the standpoint from a mother. The fear, do you have that fear that your child, your children will end up with a narcissist because they saw that in you?
Yeah, definitely, but I don't think so, just because they are very well educated in narcissism. I mean, I think especially my oldest
Mhm.
fully understands this disorder. Um, so I believe she would be able to see the red flags. The younger one, probably even so, yeah. I think because my children were grown when I left, I was able to sit down with them and have these conversations. This is what's wrong with your dad, and this is, and you think, well, in a divorce, you shouldn't talk bad about the other spouse. Well, I agree, but my kids were adults at that point that I
Mhm.
left, and so I felt like it's okay to say, here it is. This is what's wrong with him. This is what he did. This is who he is. And so I think they really understand it. And so I hope with that understanding would come recognition if they saw red flags.
And I believe you sound like you've done an amazing job. And my daughter, who's now 26, when I married my ex-husband, I think she was 5 or 6. And she is so careful in relationships. When she sees that kind of behavior, she walks immediately. And what I'm loving now is that she has decided that 2026, I'm going to focus on me, no relationships, because she feels like, and I agree, that she needs to work on herself to attract the right person that she wants in her life.
Yes,
And so I am so proud of her. But I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit, because through it all, I didn't stay. So just so you know, I didn't stay in my marriage long. However, the problems that he created are everlasting. But
everlasting.
but she saw, mom got out quick. And I never, like my mom, I never talked bad about him, but I would tell him, the relationship you have with these kids it's gonna be the one that you create. Because I'm gonna do
Right.
my part and I'm gonna let you show your own ass, excuse my French, but you and
Mm-hmm.
so they've both seen it. And I'll just share this quick story. The day he died, his girlfriend calls. I saw her name on my caller ID, and I knew something had happened. It was early in the morning. I went to my son's room and I said, I have something to tell you. Your dad passed away. And he sat up in the bed and he goes, are you being for real right now? I said, yeah. He goes, okay. And he pulled the covers back over his head and went back to sleep.
I mean that goes to show the relationship, right?
Yep,
I mean
yep,
that's very telling. Very
yep,
telling. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, very interesting.
That's right. So Mia, tell me what's the next step? I know you're promoting this book, and what's the next step after this?
Uh, I'm not really sure, but I do have a new book coming out
Ooh,
in
okay.
April, and the book is it's another memoir, but it is about my healing journey, and I'm really excited about it. It's a short book, and I think it's gonna hopefully have a lot to offer people who are saying, "Okay, I got out of this relationship. What do I do now? You know, how do I begin to get my life together?" So I hope that I hope it's well received. I'm super excited. The title of the new book is "I've Made Plans," and so yeah, it'll be out sometime in April.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. And so since we're talking about that, where can our listeners find your book? Where can they find you, you know?
Yeah, I'm on. So my book is available through Amazon, and it's in paperback and ebook format. And the new one will be the same. And then I do have a website, miajhanks.com. And there's some information on there, links to podcasts, and obviously a link to the Amazon link to purchase my book.
Fantastic. Okay, so they can reach you that way. And I'm going to ask you kind of a silly fun question. At least I think it would be a silly fun question. When you finally got that divorce and well, when you finally filed for that divorce and you were by yourself and you don't have to answer to anyone, you're like, I'm free. What was the first thing that you did that you finally said, oh my gosh, I'm able to do this? This is amazing.
I think so I am an avid crocheter. I absolutely love to crochet. That was something that was a source of contention with my ex-husband. He didn't like me doing anything that didn't involve him. He wanted my attention 24/7. So hobbies, watching TV shows that I wanted to watch, things like that were just a huge luxury. So being able to sit down on the couch with a crochet project and watch a TV show that I wanted to watch was like I couldn't believe. I mean, nobody would think that would be a big deal. You know, that was the hugest deal to me. And since I've gotten my divorce, I've started a crochet business. Actually, it's almost just to spite him, you know. And so yeah, I have an Etsy shop and little things. It's those little things that are they. It seems like such a luxury, and I don't ever want to take that for granted.
Congratulations on getting out and your book, and it's award winning. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you for being an inspiration.
Thank you.
You are truly an inspiration. And for our listeners that are listening out there, I really urge you to go out there and look up Mia's book. And I'm looking forward to when the second book is going to be launched and dropped and all that. Um, I did also, Mia, I know that we're really, is there something else that you would like to share that we have not covered? Because I know we're coming up close at time, and I want to make sure I give enough I want to give you enough time to talk about what you want to discuss because I know we've been asking a million and one questions and inserting our stories as well. But is there something else that you would like to share with our listeners that we have not covered?
I think really just the message that it's never too late to get out of a relationship, no matter how long you've been married, if it's 5 years or 30 years. You can always find a way out. I felt for a long time like I was stuck. That really is not the case. It might be challenging to get out, but there's definitely a path out. There's information out there. There are people out there to help. There are resources. And I just would encourage anybody, if you're with a narcissist, please don't stay because you think it's going to get better. Uh, you can absolutely get out and find a new life.
I love it. That's so important. I think that's so important to hear that. And I second that. There is life ahead of this relationship. There is. And don't stay because they're making you feel worthless. I know that was the one thing that my ex had over me, where he made me feel like, he goes, "You'll never find anyone. No one's gonna take you. No
Yeah.
one's gonna want to love you. No one's gonna," and I felt like no one would, and he was wrong. He
Yeah.
was wrong.
Imagine
And
that.
I said, and so don't believe them. Don't believe them. It's their way of controlling. Their way of controlling you. Well, I am so happy to hear about this. I'm so happy that you shared this. I know you shared where our listeners can contact you and all that. And um, any questions, Nikki? Do you have any questions? Any
I
additional?
think I said a lot. I'm just so, I know it sounds, like cliche-ish, but I really am happy that first of all we had this conversation because it lets everyone know that we're not alone. Like this is a common theme among us, So I'm glad that we're now having these talks, but I am so thankful, Mia, that you got out because I know people right now that I'm like, they're staying for the kids.
Yeah.
And I'm a product of staying for the kids. So I'm like the biggest advocate for get out. Trust me, we're happier. Like you
Yes.
said, we're happier when you're apart. We really are. You think you're doing us a favor, but you're not. So just thank you, thank you, thank you for not staying any longer.
Yes, yes, for sure. And I think to just add to that, one other little piece is that um, by staying, we are also showing our kids what an unhealthy relationship looks
Mhm.
like. We're showing them, we're making them think this is normal. This is what a marriage looks like. And that's all my kids saw was an unhealthy marriage. So just another reason not to stay for the kids. You need to leave for the kids in a situation like this.
That is so absolutely true. So, listeners, if you're hearing this really honestly, especially if you have children, um, get out. Absolutely get out. And I wanted to also share, because I know visually they cannot see you, Mia, but I get the feeling. If you're looking, Nikki and I, and hearing, I think we come from different demographics, and so abuse can impact anyone.
Yes.
It's not singly that you have to be a white female or a black female or a Latina female. It can impact anyone in any category, and and also keep in mind also gender. Doesn't have to be, it could be same-sex genders. So an abusive relationship can impact you in any way. So if the telling signs, the red flags are there, get out. Get out, because aside from emotionally scarring you, scarring your children, you may not make it out. In
Yeah.
my case, that was my final thing. My ex was about to kill me. And if it wasn't for the grace of God that the doorbell rang, I would be dead.
Wow.
He was strangling me. And that was the thing that I realized I have to get out.
Mhm.
So we have listeners here that are maybe in that same situation where the abuse is so escalating that it's so terrible. Get out, because you are worth being in this planet. We don't want you gone. We want you continuing. We want you to thrive. We want you to have a happy life. We want you to have, positivity and spread it. And so this is why I was so excited, Mia, when you reached out and when Nikki reached out, because for me, this really hits home, because you are strong women that have I can't even now, I'm like statistically wise, I can't, I'm like tongue tied. We're seeing that there are many that don't make it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys are here to tell the story. And that for me is like victory. And I want us to like amplify that so that the word gets out to all of our listeners are in this same situation, that they're able to get out and identify and say no more.
Yeah.
That, so thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing your story. Nikki, thank you for sharing yours. I don't know what else we could say. Is there something else that we haven't covered that I think that our listeners should hear?
I think when you were talking about how abuse affects all demographics, that's so true. And also, you said gender and race and also socioeconomic. I think a lot of people think, a lot of people looked at my life. Like I say, my husband's very wealthy. And I think a lot of people looked at my life and said, wow, she's got it all. This big fancy house with gates in the front and nice cars and expensive private schools for the kids and vacations. And this is just, she's got it all. And don't be so quick to stereotype or don't be so quick to think that just because somebody, is doing very well financially and seems to have the whole world on their side, you don't ever really know what's going on behind closed doors. And so it's easy to think somebody's got it all, but you never really know what's going on.
I call that the glass house because, in
Yes.
that sense, I'm your kids, right? I grew up that way, and everybody, when I talk about what was going on in my household today, they're like, we never knew that. We thought you had the most perfect house because I grew
Yeah.
up in an affluent neighborhood with all the things. And
Right.
and that was a thing my mother didn't want to let go because we had all the things. She even said, if I leave him, you won't have the things. And I was like, Mom, we
Yeah.
can get a one-bedroom apartment. I don't care. But she just wanted these things for us. And it cost her in a different way, but it cost her. And then I repeated it with a guy. So,
Yeah. Well, I can, and that's one thing I knew leaving, I would be giving up the things, because when you divorce a narcissist, a fair divorce settlement is just a pie in the sky idea.
yeah,
They are so manipulating and conniving. But, you do have to be willing to walk away from those things. And I can tell you, those things weren't worth anything at the end of the day. Absolutely nothing. My peace, my health, my sanity, that's what's valuable. And so I think through this journey, I have really learned what's important and what's not. And the things can be nice, but not when it costs you your mental health
and peace of
and
mind.
peace. Peace, yes.
I think we should start a club.
Yeah, there
I
you
know,
go.
right?
Need to start a club because this is amazing because for me this is like therapy because so I think when I was in my journey I felt so alone and
Yeah, oh, yes.
isolated alone and they purposely do that,
Oh, yeah.
they isolate you so that you don't
Yes.
have it, and they make you feel crazy and they gaslight you and then you're like and so in the end looking back I think that for our listeners out there that are listening, hey, send us an email, reach out to us. We're here. We want to make sure that you find yourself, and I know there are groups out there. Did you go to any therapy, Mia? Did you attend any therapy or group sessions or anything?
I did. I didn't do any groups. I really couldn't find any. I looked around and there just really wasn't anything as far as groups go. But I did find a therapist who was very well versed in narcissism.
Mhm.
And I did therapy regularly, like weekly therapy for a year. And I think that it definitely kind of put me, it's not a cure-all. Therapy is not going to fix it, but I
Right.
think it does set you up for success. I think that it put me on the right path as far as kind of resetting my mind frame around all of this. I think it put me on the right path to healing, and definitely I would recommend therapy for anybody who's been through this. It's definitely helpful.
Definitely is. Yes. Thank you so much. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us today and coming on Life and in Between. And I want to thank our listeners. I'm gonna if if Nikki, you do you have any final questions, or Mia, do you have any final thoughts before we give back our listeners time and give you both time back?
I just check out my website if you want more information and check out my book.
Yes. Can you repeat that website? Even though I'll put it in the description, can you
Yes,
repeat that website?
it's it's miajhanks.com.
Perfect. Okay. Did you guys hear that? Write that down. All right. I thank you so much. For our listeners out there, this episode, if you know someone that needs to hear it, please share it, like it, comment, because this is the only way that we can amplify this and get the word out. Because we know that one person. We all know we have someone in our lives, whether it be a friend, a loved one, our neighbor that is going through this. This can make a difference. Read Mia's book. I urge you. And also for everyone out there, thank you for following us. And I just want to say peace and love. And thank you for joining us at Life and In Between podcast.